Tonight, passengers flying to or from Newark Liberty International Airport are experiencing long delays and cancellations. The busy airport outside New York City has been hit by disruptions all week long with no end in sight. CBS's Allie Bauman is there with the very latest. Allie, good evening.
Good evening, Jerika. Inbound and outbound passengers here have been dealing with delays of about 2 hours. This airport was already hamstrung by runway construction, and now some air traffic controllers have walked off the job.
Hopefully, we'll get out tonight.
It's day 6 of long delays, cancellations, and frustrations.
That's crazy.
This week, 20% of the air traffic controllers for Newark Liberty International Airport walked off the job. The FAA confirming and one airline official noting equipment failures preceded the job action. The situation so unsustainable, United Airlines canceling 35 round-trip flights per day from Newark.
That's a short-term fix. You can't get controllers into the pipeline quick enough, and the technology cannot be updated quickly enough.
200 miles south in Washington, D.C., an investigation into a new air scare at Reagan National.
Delta 1671, climb maintain 3000, go around 3000.
Going around 3000, Delta 1671.
Air traffic control directed 2 passenger jets to abort landing at Reagan National Airport Thursday as this Army Black Hawk helicopter circled the nearby Pentagon preparing to land. The FAA called Thursday's helicopter a priority air transport and told members of Congress in a memo that it took a scenic route around the Pentagon. This follows the deadly mid-air collision at that same airport in January between a commercial aircraft and Army helicopter, which killed 67 people.
I don't know who's on this helicopter, but if we're transporting generals through that airspace because they can't get in an SUV, that is wrong.
The Army maintains that helicopter was following flight procedures and directions from the Pentagon air traffic controllers. And Jerika, the Transportation Secretary, says he will announce plans next week to modernize the decades-old air traffic control system.
Just as the air travel season is ramping up, there is a shortage of air traffic controllers at a key U.S. hub. Newark Liberty International, minutes from Manhattan, has been dealing with disruptions and longer wait times for more than a week. Senior transportation correspondent Chris Van Cleve looked into this.
For the 8th straight day, massive disruptions at Newark Liberty Airport. There have been thousands of delays, some hitting nearly 5 hours. More than 800 flights have been canceled in the last week at the nation's 12th busiest airport. Mariana Dunlap and her friends are stuck in Newark for another day.
We've probably been canceled by Spirit Airlines like 5 times.
Monday's bad weather complicated an air traffic control staffing nightmare that started last Monday. After a number of system outages, controllers' screens essentially went dark for up to 90 seconds, losing the ability to track aircraft at a key facility handling traffic in and out of Newark. It was a breaking point for about a half-dozen controllers who requested trauma leave due to the working conditions, allowing them to essentially be off the job for up to 45 days.
They're frustrated. They're angry about having to use this old equipment.
Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy says cracks are showing in the nation's aging air traffic control system.
The delays that we're now seeing in Newark is what's going to continue to happen around the country.
Duffy is expected to announce a multi-year plan to overhaul and update the system this week.
We had 7 flights yesterday delayed for over 3 hours.
Alaska Airlines CEO Ben Minicucci.
Do you worry about the safety of Newark or the safety of the air traffic control system in general?
I believe our industry is safe. I think, it's been proven over and over again, this is one of the safest modes of transportation. The area we have to focus on is air traffic control.
Chris, I'm going to grab onto that 90 seconds of screens going dark. That sounds terrifying. Tell me about that.
Well, we understand that as these system outages were going on, that communication was inconsistent. Screens were freezing. There's some indications that essentially the controllers couldn't see or communicate with aircraft traffic for about a 90-second period, but that there had been a series of outages. If a center like this goes down, that traffic should get handled by another center. There are redundancies here, but if you're the controller, certainly you can see why it would be unnerving unnerving to essentially have your system freeze in front of you.
Indeed. And so what happens next in this story?
Well, we know that the FAA is working to get supervisors into position that are certified to work in this airspace to try to fill some of the gaps. But they have a staffing shortage, and until some of those workers are back to work, we are going to see reduced capacity at Newark.
Another staffing trigger warning was issued at Newark International Airport today as the FAA grapples with a days-long air traffic control manpower shortage and the fallout from a radar equipment failure. It's the latest incident to raise concerns about air travel safety. So in these moments, we turn to former NTSB chair and CBS's aviation safety analyst, Robert Sumwalt. So, Bob, are we safe? Are the skies safe?
Absolutely, the skies are safe. And in spite of some strange things that have happened over the last few weeks, the FAA makes a real effort that when controller staffing gets low, when facilities start going down with their equipment, the ATC system will slow down the traffic. They will start reducing traffic in and out of airports.
We are hearing a lot about how antiquated the systems are, talk of floppy disks, 60-year-old systems. Help us understand why that isn't worrying.
Well, it is worrying, and the GAO, Government Accountability Office, issued a report as recently as March to point out that the FAA has not been doing enough to keep their system upgraded. So it is concerning.
There was an incident, we're just going from one concern to another, an incident at Washington's Reagan National Airport between two flights that had to go around, essentially, because there was helicopter traffic in the area. How is that still happening after the accident near Reagan?
Well, there's a lot of questions surrounding that very issue. The NTSB is asking that, the FAA is asking that, the DOT and the DOD, they're all asking that question. Whatever happened last week with that is unacceptable. But I will say, John, that there's a good side of that, and that is that when the air traffic controller detected that this could be a traffic conflict, he directed both of those airliners to go around. So it shows that that part of the system does work when it needs to.
Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy today called for a complete rebuild of the nation's air traffic control system, some of which is using decades-old technology. This comes after recent crashes and technical failures. CBS News senior transportation correspondent Chris Van Cleve joins us now. And Chris, Duffy laid out an ambitious plan. Help us understand the details of it.
Well, John, it would be nothing short of remarkable if the secretary is able to pull this off in the 3 to 4 year timeline laid out. You're talking about 6 new air traffic control centers, something that hasn't happened since the 1960s, as well as replacing air traffic control towers and TRACON facilities. 4,600 sites would see their telecommunication systems upgraded, replacing those copper wires like the one we hear failed and kicked off the situation at Newark we've been dealing with for the last 2 weeks, replaced with fiber optics, satellite, and wireless. Talking about 25,000 new radios, as well as 600 new radar sites to replace aging systems that are basically at the end of their life. And he wants to do much, if not all of this, within 2 to 3 years.
How's he going to make that happen, Chris, and help people understand what that kind of a timeline, how fast that is? Because they might think, well, gee, given all the issues in air travel, is there any way I can go faster?
Yeah, you know, some of this work probably could be done fairly quickly if you can source the 25,000 radios you need, if you can source the radar systems. Building new buildings, new centers, that could take more time. Duffy says he's going to go to Congress and basically ask for an emergency appropriation for as much of the money as he can get to start these projects. He also wants them to waive a lot of the permitting and the red tape that would slow down a construction project so they can essentially start immediately. An outside group made up of many of the stakeholders that use the aviation system put the price tag at a minimum of $30 billion. Right now, Congress is talking about money about half that.
Chris, let's imagine he could get everything he wants. Is it still realistic what he's suggesting?
Well, you know, certainly implementing it could be challenging. You'd be talking about trying to change the engines on one of these airplanes while you're flying them.